So I was so curious to get back in touch with Susan Watson after 4 years had gone by. I was so and always have been impressed with her. She's one of the bright lights that I have met in my life. And I always am noticing different shows and different music venues that she's involved in. So she shines real bright. And so when I thought of interviewing her again after 4 years, time has passed, a lot had changed in her life. And one of the reasons why I wanted to pull her on is that she wrote this remarkable love song to her husband. And part of in those days, my focus of that interview was how people keep their relationships together, how they strengthen relationships. And it was clear to me that Susan and her husband were very much into this music element in their life. And it really created this thread for them of connection. And there is this amazing idea that I want you to think about is the thread of connection you have with the people who are really special in your life. Like, what is your connection? Why do they excite you to be with them? Why do you keep the relationship going? I think sometimes we get so day to day that we forget about that piece. And if you're really trying to deepen your relationship with anyone, including yourself, I think you have to think about the parts of yourself that you're connecting with and the parts of other people that you really rely on that part of the connection to sustain you, right? So, we're like, we can have all different people in our life. They don't have to serve one purpose. Like you can do different activities or have different conversations with certain people, or even have confidants that give you that certain oomph that help you get through a hard time, or just help you feel like you understand more of how the world is operating, whatever that might be, or helps you get out of an existential crisis. But for me, around Susan Watson, what I thought about was her transition. And, in her last 4 years, she lost her husband to COVID. And that was really extreme to lose the love of your life that way, especially in a time when connection was so important and is so important, anyways. In general, we are so connected to the people that are in our 24/7 life that any shift from there is really disorienting. What I really liked was her realizing this part that, and this is another gem that I got, is that the way she healed was to let people in, even though it was painful, to let people be around her, to let herself be around people, and then to go back to that thread of connection that she had with her husband, but she obviously had it with herself, that thread of connection being music. So these may be simple ideas that I'm pointing out to you, but I want you to just ponder them for a second. What is the thread of connection you have with yourself? What are the kinds of things that make you feel alive and connected when you're struggling in grief? And are you hesitating to utilize those pathways so that you can heal? And if so, you might want to think about opening them up, even though it's so painful sometimes to connect with people when you're suffering. So, anyways, I am always so thrilled to hear what Susan says, to hear her music, to hear her lyrics. I just find her very inspirational, and I hope you do too.
Yeah.
So, I am back talking to Susan Watson. And Susan, do you know it's been 4 years since we talked on recording?
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I'm revisiting the talk that I did 4 years ago, I did a 30-day talk with lots of people joining me, was I wanted to really find out um, how people did through the rest of COVID, how their life changed, and also what their focus has been in terms of their profession or the things they do that are healing in the world, or even just healing things that you do for yourself. And and then I also wanted to ask another question of people that are coming on today, which is um, the whole idea about what are you thinking when you look at your community that people are really needing, and people are really talking about. So so those are a lot of thoughts, but I thought we would just like I put them all out there first and then just break them down. And it's so good to see you again.
Well, great to see you again, too, of course, my longtime friend. And yeah, gosh, I can't believe it's been 4 years. That's really
Mhm.
crazy. when you
Yeah.
think about it. But we've been through so much, and I've been through quite a bit through this whole pandemic, and I feel really blessed, even though there's been a lot of difficult things that I've been through. But I want to think about, you struck me when you said what the community needs, and I will say this: I believe that the community needs more love. I know that sounds cliche, but more love, and more love through music. And I just heard someone just the other day say to me, sometimes there's not enough love songs written anymore. Someone said that. And I thought, yeah, so I think the community would need more love through music and more encouragement. I know, me being a songwriter, I kind of take for granted that I can, that's my outlet. But more people need to, take that on and write down something, or write a little poem, or, and find that love through that, because I think that's a great form of self-care, and,
Mhm.
just getting through stuff. I mean, look what we've been through.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's something that you ended with last time when we talked, and you had written a song, a love song to your husband, and you felt
Yes.
like you didn't tell him enough how much you loved him. And you were
Yeah.
having some kind of surgery, and you kind of, let your guard down and were
Yeah.
able to kind of tell him, all the things that you loved about him. And then you wrote it. And I listened to that song over and over again because I loved it so much. I'm kind of like a high school girl that like listens to the same song over and over and then
Wear a
memorizes
hole in the
it.
record.
Yeah, memorizes it. And but I love that song so much, and and it will be on this a link to this so that people can remember the interview and also remember the song. So why don't you start with your ideas about that, the love song to your husband and COVID and all that happened.
Okay. Yeah. So the love song to my husband, that was really, uh, I didn't think that I guess I didn't realize I wasn't telling him enough how I felt about him. And I think that was a theme in our relationship too, that we were just like, we kind of assumed it, and we almost sort of challenged each other a little bit, like, yeah, whatever, you know. But that song really, was birthed out of realize, well, because I went into the surgery and I was medicated, and suddenly started telling him how much. I said, no, you have to listen to me. I really love you. No, no, listen, listen. And I just really, that song was written about, I never realized how much I really love you. I don't think I've ever really said it. And so that's how I wrote that song. Um,
Which makes me have
and
this theme about you started to talk about love in general, that people are needing more love songs, they're needing more write down what you love. There is this whole thing of us kind of taking for granted, the things that we love and not really noting them, like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, you are one of my most special people, or you're one of my most special friends. And so it's interesting how that came to light to you in your last statement about community. And then with your husband in this way, it's like, I don't think I ever told him. We took it for granted. We just were
mhm,
on the day to day with each other, right?
exactly. Yeah. And yeah, I think, I mean, and then fast forward to, I guess I'll take it here. Fast forward to now, I'm back to songwriting, and this most current song that I've written has a little bit to do about that, um, as well, and love, and realizing the things that you really need to treasure and value in people. And I think the things that you take with you from relationships. But I'll go into share what happened through the pandemic. So um, we moved from the Bay Area and bought a house here in the Sierra Foothills, and beautiful, our dream house. This was the thing. We're so excited. My husband was very thrilled about, let's just get it, let's do it. He was still semi-retired and working as a chiropractor in the Bay Area, coming back and forth. And during the pandemic, we were still doing that, and it was here we were, during this difficult time, we did this big sweep, and it was exciting. And we had no idea. We both got COVID at the same time. And he was the picture of health, the most healthy guy you'd ever imagine. But for some reason, um, COVID just went like wildfire through him. And he passed away in the hospital. And it was really very, very difficult. And we went through a lot of an emotional roller coaster with he's going to get better. Oh no, and it's this and that. And it was, just like the stories you always hear from everybody that you go through these horrific times. And I mean, that's, all of that story could be for a whole other video.
Well, yes,
But
I
yeah,
remember contacting you during that time, and that I just felt so much for you, so many feelings about your loss and the timing, and how scary that time was for so many people, and just to hear that you were one of the people that it really affected just broke my heart.
yeah, yeah. And we had no idea, not expected. I mean, of course, who would ever expect that? But, I always say, you know, I mean, being spiritual and thanking God for faith. You know what I mean? Because my faith really carried me through this time. And, I mean, again, talk about emotional ups and downs. But because we were musicians together, one of our plans was to come up here and play music all around this area. We were like, yeah, that's it. We're going to do it. We're going to connect with the music scene. We're going to, we're going to rule up here. It's going to be great. And then it just didn't happen. So, of course, for me, I was just like, well, hang that up. I don't want to sing. I don't want to, play music with anybody and forget it. And that part of my life is done. I mean, maybe I'll play my guitar a little bit and some sad songs, whatever. But, time went by, and I think uh, someone invited me to sing karaoke, and I was like, okay, I'll go. And then they said, what are you doing here? What are you talking about? You've got to come up. So I went to some open mics and different open jams and met other musicians. And now I'm playing in a duo where we play all around Nevada County.
Mm.
And we're writing songs, and we're going to be recording songs soon. And I even play in a little local rock band. I get my Pat Benatar on, so
Nice.
so that's fun. But this song that I wrote was really about. I guess I didn't share this part that my first husband um, also at the beginning of 2020 had cancer, and he passed away in 2020. So the pandemic kind of, both of my sons, both of the men I had married and had sons with, passed away during the pandemic. And so this song was, I was sitting here thinking about, I'm meeting all these wonderful people up here, and it's so great. And I started to think, gosh, as we all get older, every time we meet somebody, the thought crosses our mind that we're older, and there may be a time we have to say goodbye to them. And that really made me kind of sad, like, man, this sucks, getting older, that's going to be a part of it. But then I started thinking, well, what would I do if I had to say, well, and I thought, what would I do if I had to say goodbye again, in a relationship situation, if I remarried or whatever. Um, and I started thinking about things, and the first verse of the song is dedicated to my first husband. And the second verse is dedicated to my husband, Mark. And really cool, And then the last verse talks about, um, moving onward and not being afraid to try and not being afraid to love again. Um, I never in a million years thought I would be playing music again or even be, enjoying these friendships and these relationships musically that I get to be a part of. I did not think that was going to be a part of my life. And I'm blown away. And I have to
What did you
say,
think? What did you think was, I mean, in a way, you're talking about like loss and how you handle loss. And then I'm just wondering, like, when you were going through it, right? Because
yeah,
I love the idea that you were even playing sad songs. So that what people choose to like help themselves through grief, because we
yeah,
all have, I mean, grief is, the other side of grief is joy, right? But we have to experience grief to get back to joy. And then joy might last a while and it might not. But it seems like
yeah,
there's all these things that people can put into place to help them through. And your thought was when you were first starting to go through this, you're like, I'm never going to do the joy again. I'm never going to
yeah.
do joy again. So what were some of the other things that you did on the day to day to keep yourself moving forward through the grief, like marching through the grief?
Um, just being involved in community, being saying yes. There was this one moment where my older son said to me, you totally just, this just came to me right now. Um, I had a friend calling me and she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry and I want to come visit you and I want to come and stay and let me, and a lot of friends from the Bay Area would say that they want to come and stay." And I was sort of like, "Oh, I don't know." And then my older son said, "Mom, keep saying yes. People want to love you. People want to come." It's going to make me cry. People want to be around you. People want to just let it in. I know he says, "You're not the kind, you don't you were never the kind to say, come on over, let's, come and stay a while, and, because we didn't, well, in our house in the Bay Area was small, so we didn't have a guest room. Now we have a guest room, we have a big house. It's like people can come. And that's what I did. And it was wonderful. People started coming and spending time. And then I'm a fitness instructor here. And so I have a lot of personal training clients and I just got through teaching water aerobics. That's probably why my hair looks so, actually, it's kind of good, but who'd have thought? But, and so I just kept saying yes to things. And
Right.
even though
But
it's horrible,
that's a really moment I want to highlight is that there's this impulse to be like, no, isolate, can't handle it, don't want it, too
yeah,
hard. And then the encouragement, even of a part of yourself, once you start doing it, is like, keep saying yes, keep letting people in, keep letting people love you, keep trying to be around people. Like it is the isolation that can be the kind of killer in grief, right? It can be
yeah,
that thing that really makes your mind just get stuck.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And I mean, and even friends of my husband's and longtime patients of my husband's too were calling and wanting to come by um and I just kept saying yes. And I mean, I was laughing at myself because it was not like me to be, you know, hostess with the mostest and all that, but it
Right.
was great. I mean,
And
now
how
that I
was
think,
it
and
for you though? How was it for you when you showed up and maybe some days you were having an emotional day and you really felt like you couldn't maybe be around people or you were afraid that you were going to be like crying all the time? Like, how was that for you?
um it was good because like when you say that, it makes me think about going to teach one of my exercise classes,
Yeah.
walking in feeling like, and I would talk to people about it. I mean, they were, fabulous. I'd say, oh, and many times when I spoke about it, people would say, oh, yeah, what happened to me was, and then they'd share their story. And then, we'd have this connection. And I think that's it. It's all about connection. It's all about sharing. And then I'd say, okay, well, thanks, thanks for listening. And that we're only a couple minutes late. Let's work out, or let's do whatever activity. And I think that's it. I mean,
Right. So
keeping
opening
going.
up, sharing, and then people have their thing to share too. Their grief, their loss, their hard time.
Yeah,
And like a universal theme, like everybody has something that they're working on or working through, or anniversaries come up, or in celebrations or times of holidays, people don't just have joy, they have grief that's there too. So your thought is like, say it, don't block it, don't hide it, and then people join you in it and then move into what you're doing with them. Your
exactly.
activity,
Yeah, move on.
your health activity. Mhm.
Yeah, and I think I kind of learned a little bit early how to do that because when my mom passed away, I remember I couldn't stop crying. But I'd have to go to the store, or to the hardware store and pick something up. And I just remember thinking, okay, well, I'm going to be crying in front of people, and I don't want them to think I'm weird. I'm just going to say my mom died. And many times they would go, oh my gosh, yeah, I love, or whatever. And it's about being real, and so. I don't know. I just think it made a big difference for me. So, you know,
Mhm. And then
uh,
how was it for you to be back on stage? The thing that you said you were never going to do without him.
oh, great, totally great. And,
How about the
we
first
just,
time? Describe the first time you went back on stage.
well, when I went to the open jams and played there, what was cool about that is I had a lot, after I got off stage, a lot of musicians would come, hey, why don't you come play with us? And all these different people were asking me, and that felt good. But now that I'm playing more often and, with doing the duo, we both play guitars and we sing. Um, I think it's pretty cool because people, see, now I'm just going to say people like us. We're wonderful, but but I'm definitely back
You're
to the
receiving a
ham.
lot. You're receiving a lot
Yeah.
from doing
And
it.
I'm back to the ham that I am. and and it's great. And I, I mean, as I'm there singing, and there's some songs that are very emotional. There's Blue Bayou by Linda Ronstadt. That's
Yeah.
a really, that whole song. I mean, that was like to my husband. And so I'm singing it, and I don't get choked up, but I feel like I better really bring it because this expresses how I'm feeling. So, you know, that's,
Right.
it's been great.
Right. So
I really
you're
love it.
like you're channeling your emotion, right? You're having it. You're not crying anymore about it, but you're like, I'm bringing my emotion to everybody and just like really giving it all I got. And that's how I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been nice too because there's a lot of people in the community that know my story, and it's kind of that story, not that that's the, forefront of everything, but they know my story about being a musician with my husband coming here thinking, and then what happened and everything. And, people come and say, good for you. Wow. It's so great. I'm so glad to see, you're doing this. And it speaks to them a little bit. And so they're in support of it. So many of the same people at the same gigs, they come and follow where we're playing. And it's really cool.
Yeah, it
It's
reminds
very
me
cool.
of like sometimes you watch if you're struggling with something you with something in your life that's pretty hard and you think I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this. It's really great to watch other people in similar situations get through things, how they get through them. And I'm imagining you were, even though you probably didn't know it, you were kind of a model of how to address um, just living again, like coming back
Yeah.
to living again, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm so grateful. I can't help but think that somehow he's got a little something to do with it. There's his bass back there, by the way. But, but, you know, he's pulling some
Does anyone
strings.
ever get to use that bass?
Well, no. I mean, that is okay. So that's the last bass that he ever played. And I have about 25 basses of his because he was a bass addict. But, but, um, that one in particular, he had just restrung it, and that was the last one that he played. And so it's kind of like a little, memoriam there
Right.
for him.
It's like the Buddha bass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Good, good.
Yeah.
And so when you
So,
walk in that room, you're like, there he is.
yeah, that's right.
Facing
Yeah.
it. Hmm.
So lots of blessings, and it's been really cool. And, I just have to be grateful and writing more and more songs too, which that's another thing. As I was getting older, I thought, gosh, I'm probably not going to remember as many lyrics. I'm definitely not going to want to write again, and I'm playing the guitar again, and all this stuff, all these things that you know I think we kind of tend to think as we get older, oh, I'm not going to do that as much, or maybe I won't be as sharp, and it's come back full throttle. I mean, I can't
Right,
even believe it.
right, right.
So I'm thrilled.
So you have you walked in, you walked through your grief, you walked into this like, horrible tragedy that happened during COVID. Then you walked into grief for a while, and then maybe it comes in and out still. And then you got back to music, which you didn't think you were going to do. And how about love?
Well, love is an interesting thing. So, much like the music and how I thought I'm never going to have those musical endeavors again. I felt that same way. I'm never going to have any uh, feelings like that for anybody. In fact, I will share this that when my husband was in the hospital, we got a chance to be in there, which was really incredible because that was not happening during COVID, but we did get to be there. And you're going to laugh at this one. I said, I said to him, you know what? There's going to be nobody for me. And I'm not being pious or trying to be like seriously, nobody, who else is ever going to match up to who you are and how I feel about you and blah, blah, blah. And he looked at me and he said, oh, he said what you're supposed to say. He said, I don't want you to be lonely. And then he said, oh, but that's okay because you'll have Jesus. And I said, and this is, he's a long time minister in the Tenderloin playing music, very, very, you know, very serious Christian, strong believer, and here he was, and God bless him. That was great. And I'm like, yeah, that's all I need. Right. I'm cool. So you know, I'm going through life like that. Yeah. And whoever would even, you know, so, so this is where people who know that, who know this part of the story, turn it off. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm teasing.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's really amazing. I have to say, I'm going to put it like this. So, um, my musical partner that I'm playing with, it's been incredible. Out of all these musicians that were asking me to play, um, they didn't have the musicality that he did, and it wasn't even like I wasn't going, oh, he's cute, I'm going to play with him. It was more like he's really, really good guitar player. So when we started playing together, it was cool. I've played with many musicians, guys, and there's nothing there, no big deal, right?
Right.
But as we started playing, there were a few moments where we started, sharing original songs, and suddenly I'm going like this. Ooh, what's that? What's that feeling? Uh-oh, and what? Wow, and it just really struck me that that was coming out again. And my first thought was, oh, no, 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 bury that, because you remember you told Mark it was only, or it's not going to be anybody else. Who else could, you know? And of course, through music, that's kind of my, I guess you'd say love language or whatever.
Right.
And so it's been really cool because we are spending a lot of time together musically, and we really care about each other. And we've even had conversations where we're like, okay, so this music is going good for us. We're writing these songs. The last thing we want to do is delve into a huge relationship, because that always can be, dangerous, because if something goes wrong with the relationship, then the music,
Right.
tanks. So we're just enjoying time together. We really crack up, and we love each other's company, and we'll see where that goes. But I just was so
Hmm.
stunned that that feeling came back, and we talked about it, which was cool. So
Yeah.
and we have
Yeah.
some mutual feelings, but I think it's about the music, and it's about sharing and spending the time, and that's cool. That's probably more valuable than just a plain old relationship. You know what I mean? The music part of it is so
Well, it's so important to you. So,
yeah,
and also, I'm sure it's like I'm not a musician, but I can imagine. I know a lot of musicians that it's that synergy, right? It's like finding
yeah,
that synergy. You don't find it with anyone, and I think with a lot of people who are have lost a relationship, whether it's through divorce or through grief of a loss of actually a person, that that it can't be just anyone that you that
yeah,
you give
yeah,
your heart to again, or when you're opening up your heart. And it's really hard to imagine opening up your heart. And
yeah,
and so like so it makes sense to me that you would find someone who has that piece of what really attracts you in them, right? The
yeah,
music and the connection around the music. So this is like actually brilliant, because in a way, if you're going to heal your heart, it's not just like just love that's going to do it.
yeah,
It's going to be like connection, right? It's going to be um solace, peace, like finding that joyful moment. It's going to be performing. That's your area. That was your area of connection. So it's really brilliant that
yeah,
this is, and even if who knows, right? Because we all, I think, when you've been through relationships, a bunch of relationships in your lifetime, and whatever they were, whether they're marriages or just people that you really cared about, I think the more relationships you get into, you realize like how much is into actually giving your heart to somebody. The investment
yeah,
part, is like, what does it mean? We're much more established in who we are. So it's a
yeah,
different chapter that you're thinking about this. And I see that for myself in my own life. And I also see that in my practice with the people that I work with, because I do a lot of divorce, people working with divorce. So I see people really struggling with, can I open my heart again? And it can't just be to anybody, because it's a
yeah,
serious matter, right? It's a serious matter.
yeah. It is, and I think it can be a little scary, but I'm just enjoying the observation of how I'm feeling about it, and that's what's cool. And the
Well,
music drives it.
it also sounds like before that, before even the observation of the love feeling, the twinge or the excitement
Yeah.
feeling coming back, you actually connected a lot with yourself. Like you got yourself solid
Yeah.
to be able to
Yeah.
like be out in the world, to be able to perform in front of people, not to be crying all the time, that you really had to work on your connection with yourself and checking in with yourself about what could you handle,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Tell me about the relationship with yourself, like the most relationship you have.
Um, I think it's I think it's pretty good. I think it's come a long
Me and
way.
myself are doing pretty good.
Yeah, I'm all right. I
But you
think
know
it's
what I
really
mean? When you
yeah,
go through something that's very traumatic and very traumatizing, and I know you went through two deaths during COVID, you
yeah,
really have to keep working with yourself on how you're going to keep moving forward, get out of bed, function, work on your emotions. Like you really have to kind of be there for yourself.
yeah.
If you don't
Yeah,
lie.
I think exactly. I think the main thing is I don't beat myself up for anything anymore. You know what I mean? As far as like, okay, so I'm, not eating right and I gained some weight or or I'm, I'm tired and I don't want to do something. Oh, people, I'm going to disappoint somebody because I don't go to this party, and I'm more, it's okay. It's cool. And I kind of gauge it with like, you know, look how difficult and what I've been through. I mean, all intents and purposes, now I have to say this carefully, in all intents and purposes, I could be very in my own right to lay in bed and to not do anything and to go through, still be depressed and upset. And it's been, it's been a while, but still, I mean, he was the love of my life. Why, that's horrible. This moving here was kind of we were on the precipice of the rest of our life and what we were going to do and how, yeah, we're going here. And we live it's a community where, we're on a lake and we have golf and we have tennis and we have, it's this wonderful, this was like retirement. So I could be in my right to say, forget it. I'm pulling the covers over my head. I'm done. Um,
Hmm?
so I'm proud of myself for not doing that. So every day I don't do that, whether I, eat a cookie or I, miss a party or whatever. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It doesn't matter
So,
because
that's the other part. Like that's the other part to think about is your relationship with yourself gives you a lot of slack when you need slack and doesn't
yeah,
go into the whole guilt tripping, you better keep busy. You're like, hey, if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. It's almost like I love this saying of like, I trust myself with my life.
ooh, I like that one. Yeah, that
Getting to
is really
really
good.
realize that you trust yourself with your life, like you are the best caretaker of yourself in your life.
Yeah, wow,
Mm-hmm.
that's really good. Yeah, and that's it. I just think, moving right along. I mean, that's what you got to do. But like I say, I mean, I remember there was a day someone said, "Oh, what did you do on Sunday?" And I said, "Oh, I wasn't feeling good. I was kind of tired and I just laid in bed. I like watching QVC. I don't buy anything. I just watch, because it's fun." And I told them I just laid in bed and watched QVC, and they were like, "Oh my God, what?" And I said, "No, no, it's what I know I needed to do that." So, it was cool. I
Yeah,
had a
so
great
give
time.
yourself permission, and also that give yourself permission to trust yourself with your life. Like if I need a day where I'm eating cookies and watching QVC, that's a day I need right now. Like, and
That's
I
right.
won't have if I don't give it to myself, I'm gonna do some other thing that's not in my habit, but let
Yeah,
myself get that through my system, and maybe I'll have a different energy tomorrow.
yeah.
Like
And you
it's
just
almost like
kind of, yeah,
indulging in whatever moodiness
yeah,
or whatever it is, nothingness.
yeah. Just allowing yourself to, be okay with that.
I
So,
always feel like there's a difference between when you push through that and don't give yourself the things that you need, that that's when the unraveling of self starts happening, right?
yeah,
And I mean,
yeah,
if you
because,
obviously you have to monitor it, like if you're doing that all the time, like that's one thing that you said is like you could choose to do that, but that's not really your choice. But if
yeah,
you don't cut yourself slack, then you're going to be unraveling somewhere else. You're going to be just not being supportive of yourself. Okay, I'm
yeah,
hearing you. You don't want to push yourself today. You don't want to do the right thing today. Got it. if you give yourself permission to do that, you won't have to do it so much, right? You get,
Yeah.
yeah,
That makes me think about too. So, with regard to, allowing yourself to rest, just about, it was like a month and a half ago, I got sick. I wasn't feeling well and I was really tired. And then I got a fever. And it turned out I tested positive for COVID. So you can imagine the head trip I do with that. And, here I am laid up. And I just said, you know what? I'm taking the whole week. I canceled all my clients. I did anything I needed to do to just totally shut it down. And it was hard because, I'm in the bedroom that we were in when he was sick with COVID, and and so it was this revisiting of that, and I could have let it really get me down, but I thought, you know what, I'm gonna rest, I'm gonna grieve, I'm gonna play my guitar a little bit, I'm gonna think about him, I'm gonna go back in my mind about what we went through, and I'm gonna heal from this, and I did. I got better. It was about 5 days, and then I was better, and I was back in action, and it
yeah.
was nice that people who they said, oh, we miss you, and we know what you must be going through, considering, and it was really good. So
But that reminds me, and I just kind of want to highlight some of the things that you said because they're really healthy coping mechanisms that you just pointed out, and also the thought of that when we do get flashbacks, right? When we're having a hard time and we do get flashbacks, like going all the way through them, letting yourself have space to do that, like not going into fear as much because fear is just a distraction, right?
yeah,
Like letting yourself have the feelings, letting yourself get through that time, giving yourself space to, and then also seeing that, yeah, there's the community, right? It's right outside your door. They're ready to
mm,
be called in. But if you need space to get through this time, and if you're going to get through it a certain way, because this is a part of your healing, and then you said this really important thing. And then I said, you're going to get through this. And
yeah,
I always encourage the people around me and myself, like, you can do this. You can get through this hard thing. There is another
yeah,
chapter. There is another thing after this, you know?
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that's it too. When you've been through something really difficult, it's like, okay, well, I it makes me think about both of my siblings saying, hey, be careful. And, if you start dating and you get involved with somebody, we just don't want you to get hurt, don't. And I said, well, you know what? I've been hurt, probably the worst hurt. So, you know, that seems very mild compared. So I would never just not venture into something for fear of getting hurt because that would, it doesn't compare. It wouldn't compare. I've already been hurt, the worst hurt. How bad could it be? You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
But you also said this thing about what's happening with the person who's your current bandmate or musical partner is that it's what you're doing together that really is the thing, right?
Yeah,
And sometimes when people are going back into new relationships, it's like yes, there's a likelihood, there's some likelihood that it won't work out, there's a likelihood that it will, but what we're learning from people is the thing, right? Is
yeah,
it what we're learning, what we're experiencing, how we're feeling, um, and also if there's a depth that you're wanting in your life, right? A depth of connection or engagement, then it's totally fine to go after it,
yeah,
right? There's no guarantees in it because, as we know, like people are fragile, relationships are fragile, we're fragile in some ways. And so part of that is just accepting that all that's true. But that
yeah,
doesn't mean that you stay alone home by yourself. You
yeah, yeah,
put it in perspective. Like there could be loss, there could be gain, there could be stuff in between. But I guess it is like, how do you set your mindset to be able to cope with whatever happens, knowing that, that you can get through stuff. And I think there's a part of you that's been telling us in this whole interview that you do know how to get through stuff. It's not like you would choose to get through these things, but you do know how to. And
yeah,
you have the strong belief in yourself and your community and your faith that is as a part of that process too.
yeah.
Hmm.
Very important. Yeah, and I'm very grateful. I'm just every day I just can't even I'm thrilled. I'm just I get to be here and this is for us, this is the house that we chose. This is and I'm here. I'm good. I love it. I'm thrilled
Yeah,
that I
and that's also
so carried.
yeah, that's also a different spin too, because sometimes um we people can't be in the place that they thought they were going to be because it's too painful, you know?
Yeah.
But I saw that flip of the gratitude made it different, the gratitude, reminding yourself of the gratitude. So I have a gratitude practice myself that I always really and start my day out with the gratitudes of yesterday. And it's just that
Oh,
focusing of, wait, stuff goes wrong, right? Your internet's
yeah.
down, X, Y, and Z, all the trivial stuff that we have going on in our lives that we could
Yeah.
complain about. Or you could keep your eye on what's the things you are thankful for. You could keep your eye on that all the time, and it starts changing your perception. Like you don't see the smaller glitches in life as the bigger stuff. You see the
Yeah.
gratitude as the bigger stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And just, counting it all as joy. I mean, that's it. I had a bunch of people ask me shortly after my husband passed, "Oh, you're probably going to move, aren't you? You're probably going to move back to the Bay Area. Are you going to?" I said, "What? No, this is the life, and this is what he would have wanted for me. I mean, exactly the way it's going is exactly what he would have wanted, and I'm sad that he wouldn't be a part of it because he would be the killer bass player up here, and we do. Whenever I meet bass players, I'm like, you're lucky he's not here because he would be playing, in your place.
Right, right.
No, but it's really been wonderful,
But
and
you stuck with the plan and you believed in the plan that you had
yeah,
been working on, right? And I think that's really important. I know when I lost my 35-year relationship, I stuck with my plan of relocating as well. And it was challenging to do that because I felt like that was like something that was going to remind me every day that I was doing it alone.
yeah,
I stuck with my plan because I knew in my plan I had put a lot of energy and hope and vision for the future in that plan. So I felt like, well, I'm going to stick with my plan. I'm going to stick with what my vision of my life was supposed to be, and whether some part of it changed.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's it. That's the whole thing, making sure just I like that, stick with your plan. I mean, I think, that also entails having a plan. So,
Right, right.
you know,
Right.
so
Having a
yeah,
plan is a good thing. I mean, being really planned maybe isn't such a great thing, maybe being a little bit more spontaneous, but I think knowing what you want. And then
yeah,
there's going to be obstacles and there's going to be things that don't work out in your plan, but like having a direction, I guess. And maybe when you have a big major loss, a lot of times people feel like they lose their direction. They lose,
yeah,
so there might be that period of time where you're, discombobulated and all of it, nothing seems right. Nothing seems right. But I think part of it is like there is a focus that needs to be brought back in, a path that you need to start making commitment to walk down.
yeah, yeah. And I just, the thought that um, he would be, who knows? We don't know how everything goes, but the thought that he would be, kind of has a different vantage point and can see what I'm doing now, I feel like he'd be really proud of that. And so that's important. I think, um, just being grateful for how this whole thing was set up. This was really mostly his plan to come up here,
Yeah.
and I was a little reluctant in the beginning actually too, because I was like, oh, I don't want to leave, and but I love it. I love it. It's
But now
beautiful here, and
you think of all the synchronicity, like he would have been proud of you, but it sounds like you're proud of you too, like that you actually stuck with the plan and it
yeah,
unfolded and it's still unfolding and you don't quite know how it's going to unfold, but you do know that your heart is open and that your heart is strong.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and I'm enjoying writing the songs that I'm writing, and like I said, we're going to be recording them sometime soon, and so that's always fun and exciting, and I like to think that you get to, whether or not they become big or get on the radio. That's not important. I think the important part is that you leave your mark, and later somebody might listen to your song and say, wow,
Right.
that was
The
pretty good.
legacy, your legacy.
Yeah,
So I always think
yeah,
about people's energy, right? And I think since you and I have known each other for a really long time,
I know.
I think that you have a really nice, amazing energy to you, that even though you went through this major thing, that part of you that I call it like a life force energy. And some people's life force energy is really strong, that yours is really strong and vibrant
Yeah.
and bright light. And so I always appreciate that about you.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And I always appreciate your encouragement. And whenever I tell people about, oh, my friend Susan, I say, there was this one time I was doing a bodybuilding show and you were so encouraging. I was getting up on the stage and you shed a tear and you said, what did you say? Something like, you're not out of your league. You're right there. You're so great. Believe me. And you said, it's like you're the flower. It's like I'm the mom and you're my flower in the school play on stage.
Well, yeah. See, I had a past life of being a massage therapist and a stretch instructor, right? So, and you were like
Yeah.
an aerobic instructor, and you also got massages from me, but you were bodybuilding, and we were kind of pumping iron together. Me, not at the same level you were, obviously, but I did feel so
Wow.
committed to what you were doing, and so. I don't know, just in awe that I did feel like when you up at that stage that you were like, there's my flower. She's blooming now. She worked so hard for this moment, and it was a very emotional. Actually, I have that picture. I
It's
have that,
great.
and I actually have a picture because you were one of my when I was getting a photo session for my business as a massage therapist. You were my person. So in my office, I have a walk-in closet. So in my closet, there's your picture of me massaging you in my photo is a photo op.
That's great. I
It's
love it.
very cute. So you sort of been I've been a fan of yours for a long time.
Well,
Put it
ditto.
that way.
Ditto. And I haven't found a better massage therapist yet. So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
very, very good, very intuitive. So that was really
Yes.
great.
Those were pretty amazing days, pretty fun days that we
It's
were having there
crazy to
in
think
that
how
club.
long ago that was.
Yes. Well, I am so happy that we got a few minutes together. I still, the 4 years have passed so weirdly, and but also, gave a lot of information, it sounds like, on how to endure to both of us.
Yeah.
And this whole idea about like community engagement, depth, that's sort of what I'm hearing too in my world of people just really needing to figure out how they're stepping out into the world again and really clarifying a little bit more deep inside themselves, like what's important to them.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're experiencing something similar.
Yeah. And again, the big word is grateful. I have um, really great people that I'm around and great clients that I work with. And, I mean, wow, every day I'm just blown away and, to
So
see
how
what's to
should we
come.
end our talk? I'm not sure how to end it. It's such a nice conversation that we're having.
I don't know. Well, I know I sent you my video of my song, so
Yes, I will be
get a
putting that
link
on
to
it.
that.
Yes.
That'll be cool. Um, Gosh, I don't know. I just think to be grateful. Oh, I did want to say one thing because you said, you talked about you talked about fear. And I heard this great thing that said fear is false evidence appearing real. I don't know
Yes.
if you've ever heard that one,
Yes, the
but
acronym. Uh-huh.
and it's so true. I mean, that is just wow. So I think that's it. I think moving forward without fear, or just knowing that you might have fear. Yeah, I mean, not that we abolish fear, but we just go, okay, yeah, that's fear, but not real. You know, it reminds me. I walked my nephew's little 4-year-old son through this haunted house, right? Just this last Halloween, and it was too scary. It was much too scary for him. But has my hand, and we got to get to the other side. So he kept saying, not real, not real, not real. And he's looking around, and he
I
came up
love
with
that.
that himself, and it
Yeah.
was so good. I was just like, wow, Caleb, that was awesome.
Because we
So
had to get to the other side. There's no, once you go
yeah,
in, you're not going out.
totally. I know he just had it. That was
I
perfect.
love that. Yes.
So yeah, we should
Yeah, the
all
fear
be
is
like
not
Caleb.
real. Right. The other stuff is real. And so to remember, like sometimes fear is so distracting. Fear and anxiety, they're so distracting. They're so ruling if you let them be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, always a
So
pleasure to talk to you and to
thank
see
you
you
so
and listen to
much.
your songs. And so I'm going to stop the recording now, but I will be just really sending you a lot of love. And
Yes, thank
I
you.
just love your new life and your inspiration. It's just been so positive. So
Yeah, you
thank
have to
you
come
for all
visit too. Come
that.
visit because I let people visit now.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'll get on that list. Okay. Bye for
Right
now.
on. Bye.